The second thing that makes us Israelites is our calendar. Our calendar makes us Israelites. Our months are based on Hebraic measured lunar transitions. But our years can be fixed or defined if we learn how to take really good measurements by the rhythms of the sun. We can govern the year off of that. A lot of us can't do that yet. But what's interesting about our calendar, sometimes we can have a 13th month. It's like a pregnant month. This is where we have to make adjustments to the Hebraic calendar so we can be aligned with the Pesach, so we can be aligned with the rest of the feast days. So you get a 13th month sometime, which falls around January, February, March. So we're doing adjustments. That comes every now and then. We have to make that adjustments. So we've been doing this calendar as Hebrews before the Christian era, before the Muslim era. So this has been going on for a long time, before all these different entities have come to form around us. Now, the Babylonian captivity had a huge impact on the names of our months in the calendar, like Adar. You've heard of Adar, you heard of Nisan. These are all Babylonic names. Prior to that, if you read the scriptures, you'll see in the first month, in the second month, in the third month, the Most High calls the first month Abib. So the Most High had his months designated until we went into captivity in Babylon, and the name started to change. But we begin our months in the spring, starting with our feast day, Pesach, which is Passover. Now, the new moons was governed and still is at this time by witnessing the first sight of the moon. And this is what a lot of us do when we're looking for the new moon. We're trying to sight the first glimmer of the moon, okay? And we know this is fact because when you read history, you can see our enemies, they used to fight against us to prevent us from seeing the new moon. This is why we set up towers. The Samaritans, what they used to do is they used to start fires all throughout the month just to smoke up the sky, just so we couldn't make out what the new moon was. So we have some incorrect dates. They're trying to deceive us in the past. This is why we know that the new moon is not a full moon. Because if it was a full moon, we'd be able to see it through the smoke. Okay, so our enemies even fought against us when it came to the new moons. Let's go to Psalms chapter 81. Psalms 81, verse 3. It reads, "Blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast days." So we govern our feast days off the new moon, and we alert the people, all our people, that there's a new moon to prepare. This is the beginning of the new month. What falls in this new month? There's a feast day that comes possibly the middle or at the end of the month. It says, "For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the Most High of Jacob. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not." This is important to us. This is what makes us Israelites. I hear people always trying to debunk us. So let me show you something real quick. I got a goodie for you. Probably never seen this, but I keep it in my plastic visor. I keep this in my plastic visor, and you brothers can pull this up on the internet. This is coming from a newspaper article in Hartford Courant, September 14th, 1897, Tuesday, page 4. This is about 30 years after we were freed from slavery. So check this out. They claim that we're not Hebrews. What does it say? You know, this is so small. I have so many copies of these. I've been doing this a long time. People think that, oh, he just came into the truth. I've been doing this almost 30 years in the truth. first 10 years of me being in the truth, I was traveling for about 7 years all over the world. But check this out. This is part of the same paper. It's just enlarged. As you can see here, it says a colored Hebrew, right? Now you can barely read that part, but I got it bigger here for you. Look what it says. A Negro mute who writes Lashon Kadash. You know, people always talk bad about us learning Lashon Kadash, the ancient Hebrew. But this is in 1897. You know Lashon Kadash. You know the Lashon Kadash. Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kadash, Hayah, Shabka, Yahweh, Malakwataka, Taba'arata. You know, that's Lashon Kadash, the Our Father's Prayer we say. So this brother, this Negro, this mute, he was a mute on top of it, he writes Lashon Kadash. So we're not making this stuff up. This is in 1897. I'll read a little bit to you. He says he comes from a tribe of about 20,000 black Hebrews in Africa. A wonderful story. Now this made the paper in 1897. There has been in this city for the last few days a young African Negro who claims to be a Hebrew. He is deaf and dumb and as black as the ace of spades, just like Christ. When you go to the Coptic church in Cairo, Egypt, you'll see the oldest painting of Christ that he was black, and the 11 disciples who are with him also black. It says he came here from New Haven and is trying to accumulate enough money to go back to Africa. If he is what he represents himself to be, and if what he claims is true, he is quite an interesting character. Why wouldn't he be? We all are. He probably came on that last go-around of the slaves coming over here, so he retained a lot of his memory. He carries a pad and paper with him and a pencil and answers all questions by writing them in Hebrew and Lashon Kadash. Look at that. Oh, what incites the most wonder is that he writes Lashon Kadash very rapidly. Now you got scholars here who could barely write Lashon Kadash. They're in the Yiddish Hebrew. This brother was writing the ancient Hebrew, the language that Moses spoke. It is the language of the books of Moses and is made special study of, spoken. I have to break this up into 3 to 4 parts. Let me go to the next page. Spoken and written with ease only by the rabbis and highly educated Hebrews. But this young man is a mute. He writes it rapidly and fluently. Look at this. This Negro was sent to one of the rabbis of Hartford, who is perfectly satisfied that he is a Hebrew. He says that he came from a large town in Africa where there are a tribe of about 20,000 black Hebrews or Israelites who speak Lashon Kadash and are quite prosperous. He also says that his father is a rabbi in that town, and that is why his father took the trouble to teach him to write these languages, which needed an extra amount of labor on account of his being deaf and dumb. So you got a deaf and dumb young man who writes Lashon Kadash faster than the rabbis could even speak it here in the Americas. They got to learn Lashon Kadash. They don't even know it. The ancient Phoenician language. He says his people not only write Lashon Kadash, but is their speaking language as well. He left home a few years ago and has seen a good deal of the world.
In each town, he hunts up the Jewish section, and there they gave him clothes, food, and money. At least they did that. He is now homesick and intends to go back to Africa as soon as he gets money enough. He showed some money which they had collected. There they gave him clothes, food, and money. It's repeating itself. He is now homesick and intends to go back to Africa as soon as he gets money enough. He showed some money which they had collected for him at New Haven. What surprises him, he written, is that no Hebrew knows of his countrymen in Africa. He is very religious. Last Saturday, he got up very early and motioned for something for about 10 minutes. He did not have his pad and pencil with him, as it is considered to be a sin to write on Saturday. Finally, the man with whom he stopped understood that he wanted to go to the synagogue. He blanked, I don't know what this is, in the synagogue until the services were over and seemed to be familiar with the surroundings. Later in the day, somebody offered him a 25-cent piece, but refused to accept the coin, and placing his hands together in praying condition, he looked towards the sky as it is to say, it is irreligious of me to take that money today, which is a Shabbat. You don't take money on Shabbat. A collection was made for him Sunday. It yielded about $15. That he is a Hebrew. No heart for Hebrew who has seen him has a shadow of doubt. That's an article for you to prove who we are, that we are the Hebrews. And we were carried away on slave ships to this country.